So it talks about a little bit about Iguazu Falls. It's one of the largest rivers in the world, but one of the problems that's going on is deforestation from agriculture. So there are some threats in this area because of man's use of the area. A lot of farmers are going in and they're making use of land and cutting down trees for wood and supplies and stuff. And so you have to also think about the ecosystem, the animals and the plants that their environment, their homes are basically being destroyed. So that's one of the problems we have here. One really interesting thing, if you look at this, I guess if you look at this square, you can see that it looks kind of developed. You can see squares and I don't know how to explain that. But one cool feature right here is showing the difference from the past. So we're going to try out, watch this little presentation right here. It shows the land usage right here, and this is in May 2003. But if you click on this other filter, it takes it back to what it looked like in, as you can see here, 23rd February 1973. You can see it's rich and green and lush, and you can see that it's more of how it used to be. Natural forests and, you know, more trees and everything. But then in the past 30 years to May 2003, look at this. Huge difference. How many trees have been cut up and destroyed, and just booming cities now. Just the area's been put to use like this. It's kind of sad. So next thing we're going to look at is the piranha forest. We'll fly over there. Nope, we already did that. That is the piranha forest. Okay, we're going to monkey puzzle trees. These are really cool. These are interesting. So if you look on this, you have a picture of a monkey puzzle tree. And so these are some trees that are native to this area. But one of the problems, well, I guess you can see it here, the threats, is that a lot of these trees are being cut down for construction, furniture, for the building industry. And so a lot of these resources are being cut down and destroyed. All of these forests are going to be lost. The next place we're going to go to is the Patagonia. You know, those clothes and jackets, coats that people wear? It's actually a place, the Patagonia right here. So the Patagonia area, this article right here, I'll just read it. In 2004, Greenpeace visited the glaciers in Patagonia to compare their condition with that recorded in the 1920s. The results were shocking. Patagonia is experiencing the fastest rate of glacial retreat in the world, and areas which were once covered in ice have now been transformed into vast lakes of meltwater. So you have these mountains here, and you can see you have all these glacier and ice ranges right here. This is the Andes Mountains. Is this what I want? No. This right here is talking about the glaciers and the water. I think this is it. Okay, right here. I am a geology major, and so one of the things we studied about were glaciers and their impact on the environment. So right here you have a glacier. And so a glacier is just an accumulation of snowfall every single year. All that snow is compacted until it turns into a dense, thick sheet of ice. And so there's two types of glaciers. You have a positive glacier and you have a receding glacier. So as you can tell, I guess from the words, receding glacier means that it's losing more ice per year than it's gaining. Whereas a positive budget glacier is receiving more ice than is being basically melted away. So you can see, it looks like this whole area right here used to have huge areas of glacier, and right now you can see right here it's kind of being depleted. This right here is called the zone of ablation, where you have the end terminal of the glacier where it meets the water. Right here it's all being melted. And so right here you can see these medial moraines. They're just areas where sediment is being carried down with the glaciers. And so over time, as the world temperatures are increasing, the glaciers are basically melting away. And so this has, well, I guess you can see right here, sea levels could rise by between 7 to 24 inches by 2100. Why do we care? Because a lot of cities and areas are very, very close to the ocean, to coasts. And so if you have the sea levels rising by this much, it means a lot of people are going to be put out of their houses, out of where they live, and they'll have to find new areas. So this is why we care, and this is why it's a really big issue. One thing a lot of people don't know is that sea ice, if we had an iceberg right here, if that melted, we wouldn't really care because it would not contribute to a rise in sea level. But when you have ice coming off of land and melting into the sea, that is what causes your sea levels to rise. Just an interesting fact for you. Next thing, we're going to go to the coast. So right here, there's an article thing about the whales. Argentina has a very diverse ecosystem, environment, plants, animals. And so, as you can see right here, it says 16,119 animals and plants face the threat of extinction. You can see that Argentina has, well, I guess this is only one picture, but one of the things that is endangered are the whales. If you come here, I have a list right here of endangered animals. We have the Andean cat, the blue whale, fin whale, armadillo, the chinchilla, and there's also various and numerous amounts of plants, animals, and ecosystems. An article from Wikipedia reads, it talks about the major environmental issues in Argentina are pollution and the loss of agricultural lands. The soil is threatened by erosion, salinization, and deforestation. Air pollution is also a problem due to chemical agents from industrial sources. The water supply is threatened by uncontrolled dumping of pesticides, hydrocarbons, and heavy metals. So as we talked about before, we know that Argentina has huge amounts of resources, but a lot of these are being cut up and destroyed. A little bit about the species there. It says, according to a 2006 report issued by the International Union for Conservation, threatened species include 32 types of mammals, 55 species of birds, 5 types of reptiles, 30 species of amphibian, and 12 species of fish, and 42 species of plants. Why do we care, though? Because one thing that's important to recognize is that animal life and numbers also affect our quality of life. Because if one thing in the food chain disappears or dies out or whatever, that's going to affect everything else that consumes it or is otherwise affected by it. So when we have ecosystems that are going endangered or disappearing, that in turn is going to affect us. Usually happens very negatively. So what can we do about that? I think a lot of it has to do with education, prevention, and trying to help people to understand to save the resources that they have. Try to get the government in there to create more laws to help control and sustain the environment. Our last goal is talking about global partners. One thing I'd like to show you here on globalization for Argentina is it shows who they export and who they import from. So if you look here, you can see that Brazil, huge import and exporter for Argentina. So these are some of their trade partners. You can see that Brazil is a big partner, as well as Asian countries. And also they export to some African countries. And I can testify to this because I remember on my mission, I was eating a box of cereal and I saw that it was made in Argentina. I thought that was interesting. So that's just proof from me that Argentina exports really do reach Africa. And so coming back to the map, you can see where Argentina is located, and you can see it makes sense that Brazil is such a huge import and export partner for Argentina. One thing that we want to focus on, one thing that's really interesting, is the crops and the usage of land by Argentina. So they have all these crops and exports, and a huge buyer of all these food is China. China, the exploding population and growth, buys a huge amount of food, soybeans and corn from Argentina. So one thing that's happened is China is starting to invest and recognize the influence and power of Argentina. So here's a link, and it talks a little bit about this partnership that's going on between China and Argentina.